What's good, people? Agent Juice reporting for duty. This week's video is a special one, mainly due to the topic at hand. You see, there is a organization known as Films for Freedom, who specialize in creating short films specifically about human rights. And many of their recent films have been focusing specifically on the atrocities committed by the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP for short. And today's video is going to specifically be focusing on their stop-motion short film Rag Doll, written and directed by Leon Lee. Now, before diving in, I usually do some kind of bit about like, oh, let's buckle into our favorite thingy and smash the like button and blah, blah, blah. And, of course, you're still welcome to smash the like button. But particularly for this video, I want to specifically shout out Films for Freedom, both the actual YouTube channel they have, their websites, and also the short film Rag Doll, which you can actually see in its completion on YouTube, and I'll have all those links down below. And if you want to look further into this entire kerfuffle, like I said, the Films for Freedom's website is down there, and of course I always recommend people do their own research on top of it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So today's Speedpaint is a portrait of the main character of Rag Doll, who is a little orphan girl whose mother is kidnapped by communist officials. She is then left to wander northern China by herself, searching for her mother, with the only way to really connect with her being through the power of art. In the beginning of the film, her mother paints a portrait of this little girl, and the portrait magically comes to life and becomes the little rag doll that the orphan girl carries around, the only memento she has of her mother. And the story goes is as this orphan girl is wandering through life, she tries to paint her own mother in order to bring her back the same way her doll was made manifest. And at first, her drawings are very rudimentary, but as the years go by, she gets better and better at painting her mother. And so I decided to do a portrait of the girl herself in as close to the style of the portrait of the rag doll as I could get. Obviously, the rag doll portrait is a traditional painting, and I'm doing it digitally. So I'm using a little bit of tricks here and there by using textures of canvas to try to touch it up a bit. But I think this is actually the first time I've ever actually done a proper speed paint, like actually attempting to paint. I'm still using all the little shortcuts for digital stuff, but you know what? That's me style. But this is the subject. It's the main character done as a portrait. So, as mentioned before, this is a story about an orphan girl trying to find her mother. We're going to go ahead and say spoiler warnings, but she never does find her mother. In fact, what happens is, as she goes through life, she tries to go to different locations that try to take her in, but all the while she is being chased by this storm, and the storm is supposed to be, of course, a metaphor for the Chinese Communist Party coming to commit their many, many atrocities. It starts when the storm first arrives and her mother is taken away, and the orphan girl ventures forth into the unknown of northern China trying to find her mother, and she stops in an orphanarium where the storm once again approaches and she's left out in the rain. Tries to find menial work here and there, but every time the storm ever approaches and never hunts her down, and she's always on the run. And so the short film ends very interestingly, because what happens is the whole thing is stop motion until the very end. The very end is live action, and it shows what is, I believe, ultimately the same orphan girl working in a sweatshop. And ironically, she is mass producing, along with many other prisoners, a rag doll, right? This cute little rag doll that she's making. And of course, the working conditions are absolutely abhorrent. They're always being watched over by this stern guard, and if you're caught sleeping on the job, he'll tase you. And the film ends with this little girl standing up to this guard and doing this meditative pose thing with her hand, and it kind of reveals the reason why she's in the sweatshop and she was being hunted down to begin with. And what is that reason? Well, you see, and I'm going to describe this as best I can. I've done a little bit of research myself, but I am by no means an expert on this situation. But to my best understanding, there is a meditative religious practice in China called falun gong. Falun Gong is essentially, and I'm going to read my notes so I can make sure I get this, it involves the refinement of one's moral character through specific exercises and meditation. And so the flower thing that the girl does at the very end is essentially a Falun Gong meditation. Why is this important? Because during the early mid-90s, the Chinese Communist Party started cracking down on Falun Gong practitioners to the point where they were imprisoning them en masse, they were putting them in camps en masse, they were harvesting their organs, and this still goes on to this day. Now, it is becoming more and more clear to the normal population that there are literal, and I'm going to say the word that might demonetize me on YouTube, but this is important, so I'm willing to take the hit here, but there is a genocide being committed in China right now. Not only a genocide of Falun Gong practitioners, but now the big thing, one that you've probably heard about, is their new target, which is the Uyghur Muslims. And these atrocities, these horrible crimes against humanity are happening right now. As of recording this video, and most likely as of you watching it, it is happening this right very now as we speak. This is not an event in the past. This is not something that happened 20 years ago. This is not something that happened back in World War II. No, this is a now thing, which is why I believe this is such an important video to make. And yes, of course, all around the world, there are many atrocities taking place against many people. But I wanted to focus on this one because it is being committed by the second biggest superpower on planet Earth. A superpower, by the way, that is doing its darned tootinest to overthrow the US as the #1 superpower. So it's one thing when there is a group committing a horrible atrocity, but they might be a small nation or they might be isolated. It's another thing when it is a nation that is trying to literally take over planet Earth. So I do believe there's kind of a bit of an urgency in this whole scenario. Now, I am a cartoon channel first and foremost. Well, I would say an animation channel. Obviously, stop motion is not cartoon, but it is a form of animation. I do not get political usually on this channel. I obviously have my biases. I've expressed them subtly and not so subtly in past videos, but this is one that I'm willing to express rather overtly because I believe it is very universal. I don't think there's any sane person on the planet who thinks that what the Chinese Communist Party is doing right now is a good thing. No, I think normal people, normal, sane, good-hearted people think it is a bad thing. But I wanted to also emphasize that there is a great importance in the power of art, okay? There is a great importance in the power of animation in the short film that we are watching right now. People tend to kind of gloss over an atrocity when it is happening to a big group. Unfortunately, that's just the way the human brain is wired. However, when we can see an anecdote or a story, and as much as, you know, there is a flaw in the concept of anecdotal evidence, the anecdote is still something very powerful that you can use to at least get a message across. And so Ragdoll does that, because the thing about Ragdoll is it's more than just a telling of a fictitious character. The actual Ragdoll story is based on a real girl. A real orphaned girl. Well, actually, no, she's not orphaned. Excuse me, no, her father's still alive, but her mother was taken away and killed by the Chinese Communist Party. If you go to the Films for Freedom website that I've linked down below, and I think I actually have the article linked itself, you can actually read the article that tells the story about this little girl and many, many, many other children like her. So yes, Ragdoll is this amazing little story. It is well done. The stop motion is very good. I really like what they do with the metaphor of the storm. It is, of course, a story that is doing something important in this world. And usually at this point, people tend to ask the question, or someone in my position would normally be saying, what are you going to do about it? What action are you going to take? First of all, I understand that whenever it comes to these human rights things, we obviously, like I said, no sane person likes these things happening, but at the same time, you can't just simply guilt people into saying, how dare you, how dare you, you know, you must act. That's not a good way of going about this. Ultimately, the way I can wrap up about this is that what can be done about this atrocity happening right now? Well, first and foremost, of course, you can share this video. I'll definitely appreciate that. But more importantly, I would say share Ragdoll. Like I said, the YouTube video is linked down below. So share that first and foremost. and, and then go ahead and give me a share. But anyway, share that. Definitely check out Films for Freedom's website. I believe they do charities. Here's the thing about charities, though. I always encourage people to look into the charities themselves, because there are plenty of charities out there that do ask for your kindly donations, and the money usually ends up somewhere else, somewhere that you probably don't want it to end up in. Now, I'm not here to besmirch the good name of Films for Freedoms, but I am here to say, do your own research, okay? If Films for Freedoms is doing something that for some reason you think is sketchy, but you still want to help, this very real problem of a literal genocide, I will once again emphasize this, a literal genocide happening by the second biggest superpower on planet Earth, then I would encourage you to look to other charities that you may support. And if you find them, please do comment down below. Obviously, comments do help my video in the algorithm, but if you want to share the good word about what you have found, definitely comment down below. So I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. Now, obviously, I like it when you touch my buttons and stuff and comment down below and blah, 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 look at me, ooh, ah. But I do want you specifically to share this video, because YouTube does this thing where they suppress videos like this, especially ones that are very critical of the CCP, because the reason why the CCP is so bloody powerful is that there are many American corporations that have a lot of money tied up with them, so they have a vested interest in keeping things on the hush-hush, which is horrible, yes, but unfortunately that is the situation we find ourselves in. So please, please, please share this. First and foremost, share Ragdoll, like I said. Check out Films for Freedoms. And if you want to do something about it, like I said, Films for Freedoms can point you in a direction. Do your own research. And yes, with all that said, thank you for sticking through this special video. That's usually a little more preachy than I normally do. I do hope you all stick around, and I do hope that you, find good things out there. And until next time, here's to all of those who are suffering under the communist boot. Hopefully you can find freedom one day. And until then, and until next time, deuces.